All right, Eddie Nuñez in the building here on Kickin It with Kunkel, athletic director at UH. So you just walk in and go to the Final Four, huh?
Yeah, that's how
Way
it
to
works.
go, man.
No, fortunate to be at a great place with a program that has done a lot to not just get established to be one of the best in the Big 12, but honestly one of the best in the country. And so I'm fortunate to be able to be along this ride, and then hopefully make things easier for the coaches. That's what they need. They just want to be able to coach and do stuff. So I'm grateful to be here at the right time.
But jokes aside, like I remember in San Antonio, I was walking behind you. I don't think you knew I was there at this point. It was like we had seen each other like 100 times. I was going to say hi again. You're like, all right, like, I got stuff to do. It's like students were passing you and fans were passing you like, Eddie Nuñez, greatest AD ever, greatest. Like people already know who you are. You're on the biggest stage within a couple of months. Like for you to walk in the building and to be on that stage, like it's got to be a little surreal and weird.
So I'm blessed that I have had the opportunity to be on that stage, but not as an AD, as an administrator, as a coach at one point. And so for me, it's been it was taking it all in, being able to be there again. Don't take it for granted because those opportunities don't come easy. So for me, it was just taking it all in. But to walk around and see our fans and our students just cheering and excited about that same experience that we're all going through. It gave me goosebumps walking around, and I was as excited as everyone else to be able to represent Houston well.
And I want to applaud the fans because it's not a big fan base. It's not a deep fan base. The fans that are fans are good fans, but they showed up in San Antonio. I know it's close and everyone's going to pounce on me. Like, oh, what else are they going to do? 3 hours away. Nonetheless, going and paying, like the Final Four ticket ain't cheap.
Nope.
They showed up in force against a huge fan base in Florida.
Yep.
Where you played college basketball. What was that like week?
So I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this. I can't thank our fans enough because the week before we were in Indianapolis experiencing Purdue fans, Tennessee fans, and that place was 90% of their fans. And our fans that showed up, they were loud. And
they were drowned out.
They were drowned out though. But it was a great experience to know that when we got to San Antonio, after winning that game against Duke and watching our fans come in droves. Look, Auburn had a great contingency of fans there. They did. I give them credit. But when our fans started showing up for that championship game, that place was red from top to bottom. You can't take that for granted. And so I'm very, very proud of it. You asked about the Florida connection. I loved my time there. It was great as a student athlete, as a coach, but I learned a long time ago in the SEC, having been at Vanderbilt, having been at LSU, you could care less about the Gators when you're representing another institution. And the reality is, UH is where I am. It is what it's all about. And so I was probably the one that was hoping the most that everything went perfectly so that we would have won, because I wanted to walk around there holding that trophy, proud to be the director of athletics here at the University of Houston. But things happen, and but I'm proud of our team. I'm proud of our coaches to be able to, to be at that. Don't take for granted the countless championships, the Big 12 regular season, the Big 12 tournament, going to the Midwest. All those championships are a testament to this wonderful team. So I'm proud of them. Not really caring about the Gators. But that's how it works.
What was that game like for you watching and then having to deal with the fallout? Because, as you know, like you were outside the locker room with us. Yeah. You were behind the rope. You get a little extra privilege. You're supposed to open the locker room 15 minutes after a loss or after the game. You let the cool down period happen. They didn't open the locker room for an hour. And I don't say that's a complaint. I say it because I have never seen a locker room so emotional, so distraught, so just done after that game. Like, what was that like for you?
It's for me, it's trying. I have been a coach and have been a student athlete. I understand what that experience is like. Once your season's over, that's a huge hit on, especially those who have, who this might be the end of their career at the institution. So you got to take all that in perspective. But to know that they have fought so hard this year and given everything and had an opportunity at that game as well. There's a lot of emotions, and Coach does a great job taking a step back and allowing everybody to voice their thoughts at that moment, because you're never going to capture that moment again. And so as sad or as tough as it was to be in that room, it was what they needed. And so, yeah, we would love to open the door and have the people come in, but there was a lot of emotions going on in that room. And our student athletes' mental health, to be sitting there going through those emotions, and then to have somebody come in 2 seconds later and you're better than many. I can tell you right now, there's some in there that would come in there asking some questions that probably don't make any sense, and they don't understand what's happening with the mindset of our student athletes. And so Coach does a great job giving that time to them as much as he could, understanding, look, they have to let it out. They have to voice their thoughts. He has to tell them what he thinks. So for me, it was letting them go through it, understanding the NCAA might not have liked to wait as long as we did, but we weren't going to allow it to be any less than what it was.
It would have been worthless if we got in there anyway.
No,
they couldn't 100%. Talk.
Yeah,
they couldn't form sentences. They were sobbing. This wasn't like, well, we're sad. They were sobbing. I mean, I walked up to Terrence Arsenault, who's now transferred, rest in peace. And I said, hey, man, I know this isn't what you want to do right now, but like, let's just try to talk about the game a little bit and let's just get this thing over with. Yeah. And so I asked him, like, what was the emotion like in here? I don't know, something like just to get it going. And he sat there for 45 seconds, couldn't put a word together. He's like, dude, I can't do this right now. I said, all right, like, no problem. All right, we'll come back. We'll come back. But we have to do this. There is a job on both sides. And then we talked to LJ was great. Jawan was great. And then eventually guys started to be able to talk. But to say that they weren't emotional even 2 hours later, I've never seen anything like it. And I think it's a testament to the culture at UH, the culture that Kelvin has created, the fact that there aren't a whole lot of one and dones and transfers and in and outs. Like Jawan's been there, he's becoming a doctor, it seems like already.
Like, you're longer than most.
There's so much family in that room, and it was in their hands, and then it was ripped away. And like all of that combined was just distraught for them.
Yeah, I can't speak for.
I don't mean to bring it all up.
No. You know what? I can't speak in behalf of those kids because I wasn't in there, and I can't speak in behalf of the coaches because, they've definitely invested way more time than any of us will ever. But you're right. It's that culture. It's the family, and more than anything else, how much they cared for each other. When they're looking across that room and you're seeing J1 looking across at LJ and vice versa, but then also the coaches looking at each other and knowing how hard they've worked and how hard they've pushed these young men to be the best they can be, it kind of hits you there and you're like, dang, I can't go out there tomorrow and play another game tomorrow to make this one up. This isn't the NBA where you get, a series that you get to go back if you lose the first one. Unfortunately, that is a one and done. And so you learn, you grow from it. You take it all in and learn what you can and prepare for the next year. And people they kept asking me, so how do you feel? For me, I'm trying to do everything I can to already prepare for next year. And that started shortly after that opportunity, because it is about making sure that our coaches, our students, our fans, everybody understand that, look, it's tough. It was tough, but let's appreciate the journey that we had to get to that game, because it's not easy. But then also, let's look forward to the future, because there's a lot of great things ahead. The program that he's established here, our basketball program, the culture is not going to allow for anything less but for them to be the best. And so that's what I'm looking forward to.
So now going forward, making a trip to the Final Four, what does that do for an athletic department on the business side? So
that's an unbelievable question that we've been doing a lot of deep dives since honestly the NCAA started. When we got for our first round, I wanted to make sure that I captured every number available, from TV viewerships to anything from a impression from social media, television, print media. At the end of our NCAA run, to give you an example, we were not just the most watched national championship game since 2019. We had more viewers in the NCAA run this year that we had in probably all of last year. And then you take into consideration, that's not even counting the regular season, but we had over 12.1 billion impressions. I think we had 39,000 new followers on our social media platforms. This is not even counting Facebook. This is everything else. The monetary value, which is the most important part here when you think about it, all those impressions, everything that run we made was worth over $700 million worth of advertisement back to the university. That was all collected by a company that the Big 12 was utilizing for all schools, a part of it, so that we can get accurate numbers. Now, what we're doing now is we're taking another step forward and trying to collect the ones from the campus, all the impressions from the campus social media sites. So everything I'm telling you is just about athletic website, athletic social media, all the newspapers. So when you think about the impact that it can have on an institution with not just impressions, your brand, the amount of sales. I mean, we had our partnership with Academy Sports. That week alone, the Final Four week alone, they let us know they had a 6,000% increase in their merchandise sales with UH apparel. For me, every aspect that touches our brand had to be heightened. And so we did, but now let's maximize this, because there's so much more that we can grow this. And it's going to be the benefit that we're going to have in the future to help this department grow.
So how do you grow it? How do you take advantage of it versus like, oh, that was awesome, and then turn around and be like, we did nothing with it?
No, it's showing everybody those numbers. It's getting that information out. It's helping our corporate partners that are current corporate partners, the Cokes and everyone else of the world, showing them the value that they're paying for right now and how much more they're getting. But it's also bringing new individuals to the table. So as of today, we've had already half a dozen new companies that have reached out expressing interest to want to be corporate partners with us. We've probably in the last week alone picked up a couple dozen new donors at a high level. This is not counting just the fans that are coming out and supporting us at whatever level they can. These are large, significant gifts. And so for me, maximizing the fundraising, maximizing revenue, maximizing our merchandise, our branding as much as we could get out right now, expanding those platforms. But then let's see what else we can do to grow within our department. The holistic approach, everything else that's on the table, getting our student athletes in front of people, partnering up more with the community. So if we do all this, you're talking about not just a financial impact, but the growth of the campus. This is not even counting the enrollment opportunities that campus has. Mm-hmm. Their admissions, from what we were told, I mean, they had probably had 2,000 just over the last several weeks in applications. So when you start thinking of those numbers, the interest level of the institution, now it's a lot of other factors that go into it, don't get me wrong, but you can't say that that's not a part of it. And that's what we're trying to tell everybody.
I always laugh at someone that doesn't like sports and says, who cares about sports? I'm like, hey, bud, whatever it is that you do on campus, I guarantee you sports plays a role in you being able to do that because of the money that they bring in.
It is. It's part of the whole campus atmosphere. Mm-hmm. And that's where everybody sees me out there talking with faculty, going to different boards and trying to have conversations and trying to educate about not just college athletics, but what our brand's about, what our athletic department, where we're going, what that vision is. But more than anything else is if we work together, if the university, ourselves, the community, if we all work together, the sky's the limit here. And I think you saw it. I mean, if you go back and see the Final Four run, actually the whole NCAA run, you had every professional sport team here. You had ISDs from all over the state reaching out saying on social media, good luck, Cougs, go get them. That's the kind of support that we can all help each other with.
So now that you bring in all this new money, you get all these new donors. I know what the fans thinking, right? It's like, where's it going?
Yeah.
How do you use that? Because you guys are in a very different situation than a lot of the Big 12 schools. Yeah. Basketball's leading the way.
Yep.
You don't have as much money as Texas Tech, for instance. Yep. So where do you put that money? How do you utilize it?
Yeah, so we're still trying to play catch up when it comes to our peers. The biggest benefit that we've been able to achieve is the support of our president, support of our chair, and our board to go all in on rev share. And when we talk about that, this new model of what college landscape is going to look like, to be able to say that we're going to rev share at the full amount like everybody else in our peers in the Big 12 gives us a chance to compete. And that means recruiting, that means retaining, that means being able to have a team that's competitive with our peers in football, basketball, baseball, every sport. So yeah, basketball has driven the success. It's driven a lot of the financial side of it. Football does as well. When it comes to the financial, we have to take football to a whole another level. What Willie is doing day to day to build this program has a lot of similarities to how Kelvin did with his program. It is taking it step by step, not jumping it, but putting all the priorities where they need to be, building it the right way. And so we have no choice. We have to build it up. We have to take these resources that now are going to be coming in, again, not to just play catch up, to make sure that we utilize them to the best benefit for us to be successful as a department, and to sustain success in the sports that we have had success, and help football elevate to a whole nother level.
So you mentioned the revenue sharing.
Yep.
For those that may not know, because not everyone's involved in it like the way we are, especially you. The court case that's on the table right now, I guess it was supposed to be decided a couple weeks ago. We're not quite there yet. Seems like it's just getting kicked down the road a little bit. Yeah. What is this court case? What's on the table in that elevator explanation, if you will?
Yeah, so the judge has had an opportunity to now take it all in. We're waiting for her final ruling. And through this point, she's been listening to appeals and other things that have come to her table, other questions that have been proposed. We're probably much closer today than we've ever been to getting to that final settlement approval.
And what is it? Like, what's on the table?
So on the table is basic. There's a lot. There's way more. We'd probably need a whole show just for that alone. But I would tell you this. It is the ability for us to revenue share with our student athletes as through an institution. It will give us that flexibility. There's a lot of other factors that go along with it, things that we have to do on the back end. It's trying to put guardrails on a system that probably hasn't been aligned for never. And so you're trying to make sure that you go forward with some understanding of this is how it's going to be. Our fans need to understand is when we talk revenue sharing, it is truly that. It is tickets coming in. It's what the revenue that we have to be able to share with our student athletes. The first tier of this settlement will be, the cap will be $20.5 million. So within that, though, you also have a number that has to be towards scholarships, additional scholarships. That's part of this settlement that we're able to add to sports. Majority of the schools are adding them in the women's side, but you're going to see some within baseball and some others that have been deficient over the last 20 years, 30 years. That component, everybody's looking at anywhere between 18 to 19 million truly that they're going to be sharing within their department. Everybody's looking at in different ways. We're no different. We're looking at it through percentages, what we generate per each sport, what we used to do in the American, and what we're doing today in the Big 12. Putting all those factors together and coming up with what we feel is the right decision when we move forward in how we're going to distribute this money.
What's it been like being an AD during this NIL? Because it has nothing to do with NIL. Yeah. I put that in quotations because it has nothing to do with name, image, likeness, because you're getting paid before you even have name, image, and likeness.
It's dealing with the unknown every day. Things constantly are changing, and making sure that you're not just informed on what's possibly coming down the road. So when that happens, you're prepared for it, but surrounding yourself with the right people. And that's what I've been focused on since I arrived here, is making sure that I get the right people, but the ones that are here, putting them in the right position, so that as we embark on this new era, that we have the people in the right positions to be able to execute what we need to execute. So we are no longer just athletic directors. And I know this is a conversation that's been had for many, many years, but our coaches are no longer just coaches. People are hiring general managers and everything else. The fact is, our coaches are quasi general managers. We're all presidents, GMs. It is a professional organization in a lot of ways, the way we are viewing things and the way positions are. But we're still trying to make sure that we keep that integrity of what this is intercollegiate athletics and the academic component of it. As much as we're talking about money and the changing landscape, what I'm proud most about is when I look back at this past fall semester, we had the highest GPA in athletic department history. You can't say that our kids are not interested in graduating or obtaining a degree when they're elevating their game, not just on the fields or on the court or wherever, but they're also doing it in the classroom. And so it's a testament to surrounding yourself with great coaches, great people that are going to help you. But for me and our organization, we have a lot of verticals now that have to be more of an external side and how we generate revenue, how do we build our brand, how do we build this business side. but at the same time keep the internal side, which is the academics and all the other pieces that are extremely important.
And shout out to LJ Cryer, Big 12 Student Athlete of the Year. Like 99% of these athletes will not sniff a field, a court, the ice, whatever it might be at the next level. So your point is correct. And I always get on these people that are like, well, the coaches transfer, the coaches leave, the coaches do this, therefore the students should be able to. And like, I understand the sentiment, but my view is like we're at different stages of life. Like we're talking about a 55-year-old man with a family that's gone through it, has learned what he needs to do, and it's more of a career. And I know it's becoming more of a career for the student athletes as well. It's becoming more about money, but they're not at the stage of life. Like there still needs to be some sort of corral around them, teaching them what they don't know, because you don't know what you don't know, and you think you know everything at that age.
Well, that's the problem. I think we all think we know, or we knew what we needed to know back then. But you're correct. The biggest thing that I try to take from this and there is always a buyout. You know, that claim that coaches could jump anywhere else. You're right, they can. But there is a buyout. There is something that's holding them either to stay, to go. There is a penalty with that. And now, if it's the institution that person goes to is willing to pay it in their behalf, that's great. But 90% of the contracts, if not all, it says if you leave this institution as a coach, administrator, or whatever you want to put it, that buyout is the responsibility of that individual person, not the next school. So that conversation's being had right now when we're talking about the house settlement and the future of this. What does it look like? Nobody's trying to stop a student athlete from benefiting and getting the most they can from NIL or whatever they choose to do. That's not the topic here. I think more than anything else is having some kind of guidance and guardrails that we can hope would allow us to all have some success and be able to put our student athletes in the right place academically. Because that's the other side of this. We're still very early in this process. So we don't know what all those transfers are going to do when it comes to the student athletes matriculating to graduation. So that we can see here in a couple of years that the transfers had a huge effect in a negative way, or maybe it doesn't. But that's something that's only time will tell.
As you go forward now, you walk into this building, you have an athletic department handed to you.
Yep.
What's the first thing you saw and you said, hold up, wait, what? We're doing what?
I think the rev share was probably the first time that I realized we had some work to do. Mm-hmm. Not because of the people or anything else. I knew the financial challenges, and they're still there. We're making headway in some areas, but we're still so far behind in a lot of things. As much as that remains a focus of mine, the more I look at what we had to do when it came to rev share, there wasn't a full plan in place. It wasn't a plan in place at all. Mm-hmm. So here I came in, and we're starting to talk about what are we going to do this July, because once this should go into effect. Everything goes into effect in July 1st. So here we are mid-fall, and I'm thinking to myself, wait, have we not had the conversations? And they had some conversations about it, but there was no plan in place. There was no understanding of where that revenue was coming from. There was no discussion as far as the compliance aspect of it. So collecting everybody in our department to come up with a plan and then ultimately feel confident that we vetted it enough, not to say it's perfect, but we vetted it enough to present that plan to our president, to our board, and explain to them, this is what we're doing, this is how we're going to do it, this is how we're going to obtain the revenue, but we just need your support to say that we're good with this. Because if at some point they didn't, then we had to pivot to another plan. And so it's coming up with multiple things. That was probably the first time, like I sat there and said, I left an institution where we had already been 80% of the way down that road. And so to know that we were here and now we had to start from scratch, that was the first time I probably sat there and said, holy smokes, we got some work. We got some work to do. Get myself into, honestly, I'm excited. There's
so much opportunity in the city. Like there's so much. I felt like I'm a guy looking from the outside. I just felt like there were so many stones unturned, doors unknocked on.
Yeah. Yeah, I would tell you that from afar, when you view things from a different lens, it gives you a perspective that some others can't see, and especially those that have been here for so long. For me, looking at, I'll give you the best example. It was easier for me to view our basketball program through my lenses because I know how hard it is to get to where they are. And sometimes people don't recognize how much work they have done to get to that place. And so I'm not saying I was here, not to say I was there at the first game. I've been through a lot of rebuilds and programs at some of the best programs in the country. I understand the hard work, the huge lift it takes to get to that point. So, but looking at it through my eyes gave me a different perspective. I came in with a fresh set of eyes, understanding, and that's the same way I've approached this, every aspect of this job. Look, we don't have everything. There's things that we can do better. Absolutely, we're not gonna be perfect. But I can tell you this: there's more doors here than there was in my previous institution. And to know that I can go out and just start and establish relationships and show and build that trust with this community. There's too many Fortune. Everybody talks about the Fortune 500 companies. There's a lot of them out there, and that's great. I love for them all to be partners with us somehow, some way. But there's a lot of people that are passionate about the UH brand that have never been communicated with, have never had a touch point. And so I have found probably more, and I don't want to say it as a positive, but it is more people that have never had a connection with this institution that graduated from here are passionate about this place and never had the opportunity to basically give because nobody asked them. So they didn't give. So we are starting to that whole plan of getting more people involved. But more than anything, it's getting them to the table and just saying, come enjoy one of our events. Come support our student athletes. Forget about the money and everything else. Go enjoy a football game. Go enjoy volleyball. Go enjoy tennis. Go enjoy baseball, basketball. Because I promise you, once you leave, you're going to see how fun it is.
This conversation is going to keep going, but if you're watching on the Fox local stream, 26 minutes is up, so we got to kill it, and YouTube forever. All right.
Got it.
Is it fair to say, as an athletic director in 2025 now, that you guys will never reach your goals and will never become a Big 12 athletic department's top to finish if football doesn't have success?
Yeah, for us to truly achieve what we're striving to achieve here, which is not just, again, be in the Big 12. I want others to look at us and say, that's the program we want in our conference, regardless what it is. That means we have to do everything right. We have to manage our budget the best we can. We have to have great leaders in our coaching staff. But more than anything else, if we don't get football, it has the most opportunity for upside when it comes to dollars to our department. Look, our basketball arena is sold out. I can add some more standing room onlys in certain games, but the reality is the bigger number for us to be able to generate the most revenue is going to come from football. And the most eyes, the majority of the time, are in football. And what I love most about when I came here, and I said this in my press conference, was knowing that when I had a chance to speak to Coach Sampson and Willie, both of them, and I sat there with Kelvin, I sat there with Willie, and we had those conversations one-on-one or when I was there doing my interview. To know that they support each other, Kelvin's the first one to say, man, to get this place where it needs to be, we got to get football going. Why? Because he's seen it. He saw it at Oklahoma. He's seen it everywhere he's been. And so we have to get football going here. Willie knows it. Everybody knows it. But we're not going to just do it fast. He is a person that is all about doing it. Everywhere he's been, he's had success. And, heck, he's pulled me in more places in this community than I think anybody else. He's like, Eddie, you want to go? Let's go. And I love that about him because he wants to do it the right way, like everybody who has achieved success has done it. So I'm excited about that. But it's gonna be our fans in this community coming out and saying, you know what, we want to support this program.
Earlier, you rattled through all the numbers of basketball.
Yep.
I don't know what you could multiply those numbers by if you got to the college football playoffs, but I can only imagine the impact it would have on the university if you reach that level of success.
When you think about football, the two of our games in football alone this year were the highest viewed Big 12 game. And it was our TCU game, and I believe it was it might have been Kansas State or Iowa State, one of those.
Both wins?
Both wins. Though, so I think it was Kansas State. When you look at those two and you say those are the two most watched games in the Big 12, imagine when we get this thing rolling. And those numbers, those television numbers start equating to more eyes, more visibility, more brand built, more corporate partners, more individuals wanting to be a part of this ride. It opens up doors. If you think about every program from the TCUs and anyone in our league or anyone in any other league, when they made that jump from just being okay to being a contender, it was 1 or 2 years that basically pushed them when it came to the bowl games, and then got them into that CFP conversation or that BCS back in the days. So that's what we strive for. That's what we're looking. That's why we're investing where we can invest. You got a new facility coming up at football. That's been, it's one of the biggest sellers we have. As much as money is the driving force in a lot of ways to getting kids here. When you talk about NIL opportunities and rev share and this and that, the fact is, they still want to be working out at the best facility in the country. They still want to have the resources. And basketball is showing it. Football is going to show it to you here soon enough. It's already doing it when you think about our recruiting, our retaining of players and everything else.
What about alignment? How do you see the future of alignment? Because the Big 12 is no longer the Big 12 what it was. The Big 10 is no longer the same. Everything's all different. The Pac-12 doesn't even exist anymore. And you have to have football for that. Like, you have to have good football because every decision is being made via the football program and what they bring, and conferences look at that.
I'd love to have that perfect answer.
Yeah.
I think we've looked at
I don't think there is one because I don't know that anybody knows.
No, I think everybody has a lot of ideas.
Yeah.
And we've seen everything from a Super League to taking part of the top tier of the SEC, the Big 10, the Big 12, the ACC, and trying to put them in one league and everything else. It is important for us to be able to get football at that level where people recognize it, not just for some of the history that we have, because we've had unbelievable history, unbelievable, but consistent history and that tradition that we want to sustain here. There's too many people thinking they have the answers, and I wish it was as simple as just saying, okay, let's all get into this together. But you have conferences right now that have pretty large TV contracts, and for them to know that they're going to either split this up or it's going to go into a bigger pot, unless they can see the dollars become greater at the end for them as well, it's going to be hard to ever get to a finish line when it comes to one of these super leagues and even if it's just football alone, that drives that bigger league and everybody else stays within the current conferences that they are. The one common practice that I think, if you go back hundreds of years, is there's always been realignment in the NCAA. I mean, there were schools. I mean, we all talk about the Southwest Conference, this and that, and every other conference. But if you look back, Tulane at one point was in the SEC. And so there's always been realignment. Just today, it's becoming more evident on what's that driving force.
So the NCAA, we've pronounced the NCAA dead for like 20 years now, and it's still around.
Yeah.
Does it live forever? What is the biggest thing that the NCAA brings to the table? Because from the outsider, again, it looks like they used to enforce rules, and now those rules are becoming annoying, and now they don't enforce them as much because they don't want anyone mad at them because they want to stick around.
I don't know if they ever enforce the rules great.
Yeah.
I tell this story to everybody. 10 years ago, when they had the challenge and they came out with the nutrition, they had to do more for nutrition. NCAA made that. There was a championship game where a student athlete was sitting in that locker room and basically said, I don't know whatever. I mean, we're not even getting any food. We're just sitting here. All of a sudden, that conversation of nutrition became the topic of conversation. And typical of the NCAA, they said, we're going to allow food. Well, you could give your student athletes a bagel.
No cream cheese.
Yeah, and so you think about the
so dumb.
It is the logic behind it was horrible. And here we are as administrators having to uphold these rules and these things that they put in place, and we're sitting there saying, you want us to uphold something that I can't control. It is meaningless. We have bigger things to discuss. And so that's why when you think about the NCAA, more than anything else, a lot of those rules and nuances that they put in place years ago to continue to keep their arms around this as much as they could, it was a detriment to the future of where we are today. Because everything that was possible, we had a student athlete at LSU who wanted to have his own barbershop, had the ability to do it, actually made some money on the penny stocks or whatever the heck they are. I don't know. He was making more money than I was, which was great.
He was using an education to do well for himself.
Exactly. And here he's a star football player, but the NCAA wants to ding him because he's doing all this. And so back then, if they gave the opportunity for our students, for all student athletes, to be able to do something when it came to a name, image, likeness, to start the process, we would have been so much further ahead today. So when you ask, what does it do well?
Yeah, what's their purpose right now?
I'll tell you, what they do well is not what their purpose is. What they do well is they do the championships.
Yeah, that's what.
If you think about the championships, they do that extremely well, and the basketball is a highlight. Mm-hmm. Now they had to fix certain things with the women's to make sure that it was equal, because unfortunately back then it wasn't, and so they've done so much more now to level that, which is what they needed to do. They needed to put it so that everybody's taken care of equally. Their championships, the way they run them, is done at a really high level. The other aspects, the enforcement, the rules, the monitoring of this and that, I think that's where it gets a little bit more frustrating for administrators, because here we are depending on them to give us guidance, so I can give guidance to our coaches, so they can give guidance to our student athletes, and heck, we could give guidance to our donors. But every time there was another loophole, another pivot in a different direction. And so as administrators, we're frustrated because we just want to have something that allows us to be successful without honestly having to reinvent the wheel every week.
So it seems like the NCAA is a high-level event coordinator.
They've become really good at that. I'll leave it at that.
Will they exist in 10 years, 5 years? Like what?
I don't know. I would say yes, because there's too many other sports, and people correlate the NCAA with just Division I. Remember, there's Division II, Division III, and there's many things they do extremely well in those areas, in those two divisions. So I do believe there will always be some version of an NCAA. Will it still be titled that? I don't know. I don't know if it gets rebranded. I can't tell you. But there will be some structure that allows them to have some management of all the other sports. Because the fact is, I was the chair for the men's basketball oversight committee for 3 years. And so in those 3 years, everything that you think about for men's basketball, from the tournament to rules to recruiting calendar, goes through this committee, and ultimately I'm the chair. So I saw it at a high level, the impact of what that committee was doing, because it was trying to collect all this. The problem that happens is when you get into having practitioners in the room, and I said this so many times, I am fortunate that I coached, I'm fortunate that I played, so I could sit there and understand what a coach was asking about. But then I have a faculty athletic rep over here who doesn't understand anything what that means, but they're trying to keep that academic component. So it was my task to try to bring it all together. The problem is I needed more, not just of coaches, but of people that have experienced this side of it, because they understand the nuances. They understand recruiting calendars. They understand the good, bad, and the ugly that's happening out there. And the reality is 95% or maybe more of the coaches that are out there really want to do it the right way. But with the stress and the pressures and everything else, it's hard. Sometimes it gets hard when you don't have those pathways that are telling you this is what you need to do and how you need to do it.
When I had Kelvin on the show, he said, I asked him, like, why stay at UH if you have so many hurdles that you had to get over to create this program? And he said, I got happiness here. Like, I got my family here. Yeah. Everything we have, other programs want it.
Yep.
Despite all the hurdles that UH is going through to become a Big 12 program, or Big 12 athletic department, because they're brand new. It's 2 years?
2 years.
2 Big 12 championships.
Yep.
Does it make it easy negotiating and working with Kelvin because he just goes out there and says, I don't want to go anywhere else?
You're been in this business for 25 plus years. The one thing I can tell you is you want a coach that wants to be there. Is it going to be easy for him to understand? No, because he knows how hard it was to get here. And you have to appreciate that, because, look, there's a lot of people who would have jumped ship probably much earlier and said, you know what, maybe had one part of success wherever it may have been, and they would have taken the first opportunity somebody else presented to them. So to have someone like Kelvin to be able to say, I'm not just going to do it, I'm going to do it right. But and you know, he keeps saying, you know, you've heard him say he owes it to this community for giving him a chance. But the fact is, we all owe each other, because we wouldn't be where we are without him and what his vision and what his hard work and his process and the program he's developed. So yeah, for me as an administrator, you want people like that. Now, look, if a coach wants to jump ship and go, that's great. Just make this place better than it was yesterday. And I get it. I don't like it, but I get it. And I'm okay with that. But you're much better off when you have continuity on coaches and continuity on staff members, because then that vision, but you got, as a leader in the department, I have to make sure that we're constantly getting better and we're constantly evolving in the right way, because what I don't want is people getting stale. Mm-hmm. So, no, I have always been, you asked that earlier question about what intrigued me about this job and what are some of the things that interest me. And I looked at this and I said, I looked back at my career. Not honestly, I hadn't realized it until this opportunity presented itself. And I didn't realize that every job that I had taken was, I don't want to say a risk, but it had a challenge ahead of it. Like, it wasn't the best program in the Big 12. It had financial. I left a program that was on DOJ watch when I first inherited, NCAA audits, hadn't balanced a budget in 10 years, fundraising was all-time low. So to get it where we did, I look back and I'm like, that's what kept me motivated. So this department, being here, and people are going to say, well, when somebody else comes calling, you're going to want to go somewhere else. Look, I want to be at a place that wants to achieve the best it can. And it's not going to be easy. I've never said it was going to be easy, but I'm willing to do the work to make it be the best it can be, because I don't do this, and we don't do this, and I know Coach doesn't do this for himself. He does this for the community. We all do this for this university. And so, look, Willie's another one. I know and I've got, you go down the list of our coaches that are not just some that are Cougars from college, that they've been here and they've matriculated all the way to becoming coaches now. But we have coaches that want to be here and want to lead the Cougs.
Yeah, it's always interesting. You get a new boss in town, and Kellen is the coach in waiting, as he's been dubbed. Like, how do you work with that walking in the door? Like, is he?
Yeah, he is. Absolutely is. Absolutely is. And, it was a question and a conversation that I had with Kelvin when I first was in the interview process. And I said, look, I know of your son. I've watched him from afar. I've heard great things about him. But I said, my task right now is to help you, Kelvin, be the best you can be, take things off your plate that you're hopefully dealing with. And part of that comes with trust. The longer I'm here, the more hopefully we can keep taking off from him so he can just coach and do what he needs to do. But what I told him is, during this next year, my hope is to get to know your son, get to know Kellen, get to know every aspect of him, and help him be even more prepared than he is today to lead this program. There's nobody else in the country that's going to be able to do what is necessary to sustain this program than Kellen. And I understand that. But I also want to make sure as an administrator that I can help him in all those different aspects so that he's prepared, because being the head coach of any program, let alone this program, that's a lot of pressure and it's a lot of expectations. And I know he can handle it, but I want him to I want to make sure that we can, that transition is as seamless as possible. It's never going to be perfect, but it's as seamless. And so Kelvin and I had that conversation, and I could tell you today more than ever, I know he'll be an unbelievable coach when the time comes for us.
How long is Kelvin going to coach?
Oh, as long as he wants to. No, again, I don't know. You hear rumblings and this and that. He is the winningest coach. What he has done over the last, again, you could just say the last 10 years, but just the last several years. There's no other program in the country that has been able to do what he has done at the level he's been able to do it. So as long as he wants to be our coach, I'm in. I think that is what we want, but it's on him. This is his world. He has built this. He has the opportunity to be able to say when the time is. And for me, as long as the ride goes, I'm going to keep enjoying it. But we'll be ready when the time comes for Kellen to take over.
You trying to lock him down for a 15-year deal or what?
He's
got a lifetime contract.
Yeah, I told this to somebody. I said, it's not like we're worrying about what a buyout is here.
Yeah.
This is about somebody who, what are you looking for? And how do we help you get to what you're trying to achieve? Knowing that we don't have all the resources, knowing we're not financially at the same place. He gets that. And I appreciate him for understanding that, because as much as he, myself, and every other coach in our department want to be at the same level that some of our peers are, we understand it's going to take a little time. And so his willingness to understand that helps me go to battle every day and know that whatever I can present to him, he knows that it's going to be the best that I can do. And I'm going to work to show him that it doesn't have to be on the backs of this university. It's going to be a collective effort. We're all going to work on this. The president, she's on board 1,000% to want him to stay as long as he can. Excuse me. Our board wants him to be here as long as. So this is perfect alignment, and honestly, just presenting the best thing for Coach that he feels could help us keep him here as long as he wants to be.
Well, based on the passion that Cougar fans showed throughout the Final Four on my X account, they could all donate $10-20 and you could pay them for 20 years.
If anybody out there that is a follower, send us the money. We will take you. Absolutely. So no, I appreciate it.
Eddie, this was awesome, dude.
Thank you, man.
Thanks for coming in,
brother.
so much.
Appreciate it.
Like it, subscribe, do that thing you got to do. See ya.